My name is Claire Whitfield. I'm 29 years old, and the moment my grandfather asked that question at Thanksgiving dinner, my entire fork just stopped in midair. He looked across the table, past the candles, past the cranberry sauce, past all the careful smiles, and he said, "Claire, who are the people living in the house I bought for you?" The room went silent. My mother reached for her wineglass, my father cleared his throat, and my sister Dana just stared at the tablecloth like it owed her money. I didn't own any house. No one had ever told me I did. That was the night I found out my family had been quietly running a life that was supposed to be mine. Stay with me, because this isn't just a story about a house. It's about what happens when the people who are supposed to love you most decide, without a single conversation, that you can't handle your own future, and then they use it for themselves. 3 years before that dinner, I graduated near the top of my class, business degree, student debt the size of a small mortgage. But I was proud. I thought I'd done something. I believed, genuinely, that effort had a return. What I didn't know was that while I was building my life brick by brick, someone else was quietly dismantling the foundation. I worked constantly. Morning shifts at a bakery where the ovens ran hot and the tips ran cold. Afternoons at a tutoring center. Weekends doing data entry for a firm that paid just enough to be insulting. I wore the same 3 pairs of shoes in rotation. I brought lunch every day. I set alarms to transfer money the moment my paycheck hit so I could cover bills before I could accidentally spend it. I was disciplined, I was careful, and somehow my credit was still falling apart. I couldn't figure out why. Every month I made my loan payments. Every month I watched the balance on my student debt barely budge. I blamed myself for not understanding money well enough. Meanwhile, my parents had a very simple explanation ready whenever someone asked. Claire gets overwhelmed. She's always struggled with the practical side of things. They said it softly, with love in their voices. And they said it to my grandfather, who had been living abroad for years, checking in occasionally, trusting them to keep him informed. 8 months before that Thanksgiving, I got a notice taped to my apartment door. 30 days. I sat on the bathroom floor with my phone in my hands. My bank account showed $34.17. I had a full-time work schedule and $34. I had done everything right, and I had $34. I packed what I could into 2 bags and left the furniture behind. I stayed with a friend for a month, then another friend, then a coworker who was kind enough not to make it awkward. I slept on air mattresses, sofas, and once, a camping cot in someone's home office. I kept applying for new apartments. I kept failing the credit checks. I kept asking myself what I was doing wrong. That same year, my sister Dana posted photos of a lakeside house, big wraparound deck, a fire pit on the lawn, tall pine trees. She captioned it, "Our Little Escape." I double-tapped it on my lunch break and moved on. I wasn't even jealous. I was too tired for jealousy. I remember thinking, good for her. At least someone in his family is doing well. I had no idea whose name was on that property deed. Thanksgiving. Grandpa Harrison flew in from overseas. He looked older, a little thinner, but his eyes were the same, careful, patient, the kind of eyes that miss nothing and wait for the right moment. He hugged me at the door, and something in how he held on, a beat too long, made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in a while. Dinner was going fine, politely fine. The kind of fine where everyone is being careful. Then he set down his fork and said it. "I drove by the house last week, the one I bought for you. Claire, there's a family living there. Who are they?" My mother jumped in before I could even process the question. Her situation was complicated. We made arrangements. It's being looked after. My father nodded. She wasn't in a position to manage a property of that size. We stepped in. I looked at both of them. "What house?" Nobody answered me directly. That was the answer. Grandpa Harrison watched all of it. Quietly, steadily, the way you watch something when you've already seen enough, but you're waiting to see the rest. Then he looked at me. "What's your current address, Claire?" I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to answer. Because I had 3 possible answers, and none of them were good. I finally gave him the address of where I'd been staying. My mother exhaled. She moves around. It's been a difficult year. I put my hands flat on the table. I was evicted. I've been couch surfing for 8 months. I'm not unstable. I'm broke. There's a difference. The room didn't know what to do with that kind of honesty. Grandpa reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a photograph and slid it across the linen tablecloth. A lake house, big windows, a dock, and standing in front of it, Dana, her husband Marcus, and his parents. "I went there to surprise you," he said. A man answered the door. He said he was Marcus's father. He said they'd been living there for 2 years. Dana's wine glass made a small sound against the table. "There must be some confusion." "The address matches," Grandpa replied. "What doesn't match is your sister's name on it." My father tried reason first. He said I hadn't been capable of managing an asset of that value. He said they'd acted in my best interest. He used the word guardians, like it was a legal title they'd earned through worry alone. My mother tried softness. She said I got overwhelmed. She said I spiraled. She looked at Grandpa with sad eyes like she was protecting him from something. Dana tried deflection. She said Marcus's parents needed somewhere to go. She said the house was sitting empty. She said I would have let it fall apart anyway. None of them answered the actual question. None of them said, "We should have asked you." The front door opened. Cold air came in with it. And then a man in a dark coat carrying a briefcase stepped into the foyer. Grandpa didn't look surprised. "This is Mr. Calloway," he said. "My attorney. I called him before I came to dinner." My father stood up. "You can't bring a lawyer to a family holiday." "Sit down, Robert," Grandpa said, quietly, like someone who had already run out of patience but had no interest in raising his voice about it. Mr. Calloway set the briefcase on the table and opened it without ceremony. He laid out 3 folders, each tabbed and labeled. "This property is Harborview Estate, purchased 4 years ago. Buyer, Harrison Whitfield. Grantee on the deed, Claire Whitfield." He slid the deed copy toward me. My name, typed clean and formal, looked more stable than my entire life had felt for years. "Current recorded owner," he continued, placing a second document on the table, "is Dana Whitfield Marsh. Transfer date, September 8th. Consideration, $1. $1. "That's a clerical error. It's recorded at the county," Mr. Calloway said. He wasn't unkind. He was simply done. Then he opened the second folder, my student loan repayment history. He walked through the dates, bakery deposits, tutoring deposits, data entry deposits, all of it going in month after month. Then he slid a second statement across the table. Different account number, different name, Patricia Whitfield, my mother. "An automatic payment redirect," Mr. Calloway said, "established several years ago. Your payments never reach the loan servicer. That is why your credit reflects delinquency. That is why you've been failing rental screenings." My mother's hand went to her throat. I didn't. "It's documented," he said. I thought about the bathroom floor, the $34, the couch in my coworker's office, the camping cot, the application rejections. All the mornings I sat with a spreadsheet, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. I hadn't been doing anything wrong. The money was going somewhere else. My mother was crying. My father was speaking in that low, urgent voice, the one he used when he was negotiating, not apologizing. Dana wasn't looking at anyone. Mr. Calloway opened the third folder. Monthly transfers from Marcus's parents, $5,000. Same date, every month, for nearly 2 years. Memo line, rent, landing in Dana's personal account. "So," Grandpa said, his voice gone flat, "you transferred her deed for $1, and then you charged rent on her house." Dana looked at me. "You weren't using it. You couldn't have handled it. Be honest with yourself." I met her eyes. "I couldn't handle it because my payments were being redirected. And I couldn't rent a new place because my credit was destroyed. You all made sure the floor was gone, and then told everyone I was afraid of heights." Grandpa looked at me. "What do you want, Claire? Tell me exactly." I didn't hesitate. "I want the deed restored. I want my credit corrected. I want every dollar traced and returned. And I want the story, the one where I'm fragile and incapable. I want that finished, tonight." Mr. Calloway nodded once. "We'll file to restore title. We'll document the unauthorized redirect and issue a formal demand for restitution. All communication going forward will come through this office." My mother started pleading. My father started bargaining. Dana talked about intentions and circumstances and how complicated everything had been. Grandpa raised one hand. "This is not a conversation," he said. "This is a correction." That was 14 months ago. My phone still buzzes, but now it's calendar reminders. The dentist appointment, a therapy session, a call with my accountant. I have an accountant now. That still surprises me sometimes. I'm not couch surfing. I rent a small apartment with rooms that smell like nothing except clean. When I turn the key, the lock opens on the first try. That sounds small. It is not small. Harborview Estate is in my name. Not as a possibility, as a fact. I don't live there full time. Some weekends I drive out, sit on the dock, and listen to the water. I don't have to explain why I'm there. I don't have to justify being somewhere that belongs to me. My parents called. First angry, then sorry, then wanting to talk it through over dinner like it was a misunderstanding about a borrowed sweater. I didn't answer. Mr. Calloway handled what needed handling. I handled my piece. Dana sent messages. Long ones, short ones, ones that reframed the whole thing until I was somehow the person who had hurt the family. I read the first line of the first message and stopped. I haven't read another one since. Grandpa calls me directly now. Not through my mother, not through updates, not through the version of me that existed in other people's stories. Just him. Just, "How was your week?" He apologizes sometimes. I tell him the truth every time. "You came back. You showed up. You stayed at that table when it mattered. That's not nothing. That's actually everything." I spent years believing that keeping the peace was a form of strength. That going quiet when things got loud was the mature response. That if I made myself small enough, easy enough, agreeable enough, the people who were supposed to love me would eventually show up and act like it. What I know now is this: peace that requires you to disappear isn't peace. It's just a quieter kind of trap. I didn't save my family. I didn't fix them, reach them, or bring everyone to some tearful understanding over coffee. I stopped allowing them to overwrite me. I stopped letting my silence be consent. I stopped mistaking my tolerance for their love. That's what it looks like when someone finally reclaims their own story. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear, and finally, irreversibly, mine. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.